Good morning and thank you for joining us. My name is Jay Megan and I am bringing the zoo to you. I'm an animal care specialist here at Brookfield Zoo, and today we're in Tropic World to talk about our group of western lowland gorillas. Specifically, I'd like to tell you about their individual personalities. So if you look behind me, you'll see a familiar sight for those of you who have been to the zoo before. But what you may not have ever thought about is how much the individual gorilla behavior is different from one another. But as animal care specialists, we take a lot of pride in getting to know each and every one of our animals so that we can give them the care and specialized needs to best suit them. When we know gorillas well, it helps us to bond and trust them. If an individual seems to be acting a little bit off, we're sure to notice right away. We can then get recommendations from our vet staff or on-site nutritionist as necessary and act quickly to help them be the best and healthiest that they can be. So we'll start with our beautiful silverback JoJo. He was born at Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago and came to us almost 10 years ago. He'll be 41 years old on April 30th and is dad to all three of our youngsters. Gorillas can live to be in their mid-50s when in professional care, so he is considered to be an older gorilla. Although he is a relaxed and gentle gorilla, he is still really ready to mediate any arguments the females have with each other. If he hears noises that indicate a fight, he will go to those gorillas and physically get between them. This is an important and normal silverback role in the troop. He will also come to check out anything that the troop is alarmed about. He helps put the group at ease if there is something unusual or novel in their environment. When JoJo appears confident, the rest of the troop relaxes. When the troop moves between their nighttime and daytime areas, JoJo is always last so that he knows where the rest of the group is. He weighs almost 400 pounds and is very muscular, so the rest of the troop respects him when he approaches. Despite his huge size, JoJo is a very gentle dad. He doesn't often play with his kids, but he's very tolerant of them when they're roughhousing nearby. When the group is foraging for food, everyone moves out of JoJo's way. Like the other gorillas, JoJo likes all types of produce and enrichment, such as seeds, dried fruits, and cereals. Believe it or not, one of his favorite things are heads of lettuce, especially escarole. It's amazing to watch how quickly he devours his leafies. And when he's all done eating, he likes to wash his hands to keep clean. Next, we'll move to Binti. She's the oldest female in the group. She actually has a birthday coming up next week on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. She'll be 33 years old. Apart from JoJo, Binti is related to everyone in the group. She's the mother, grandmother, or great-grandmother of the rest of the group. Binti came to Brookfield Zoo from the San Francisco Zoo in 1991. She's had 2 kids while living here. Her eldest, Kula, still lives here at Brookfield Zoo. Her son, Bakari, now lives at St. Louis Zoo. Binti tends to be a loner and is a subordinate adult. Even juveniles Nora and Zachary will sometimes try to dominate Binti. She has a big personality and often tries to get keepers' attention. When she's curious, she pays a lot of attention to everything that goes on around her. Binti is the adult most likely to interact with enrichment foraging devices for a long time. She's patient and likes to get every piece of food out. Up until a few years ago, she would play regularly with the youngsters in the troop. She has relaxed in activity and demeanor since then, but she still does playful kinds of silly behaviors, like waggling her tongue, doing a downward dog yoga pose, and my favorite, putting pieces of food on her head and walking around. Binti weighs over 190 pounds. Her coat is grayish compared to the other females, but not silver like JoJo. Kula is our most dominant female. She's mothered 2 of the 3 juveniles that currently live here. She's a great mom and tends to all of her baby's needs well. She is still nursing young Allie and will do so for another few years, even though Allie is eating solid foods now. Kula still carries Allie regularly and will hug her if she seems scared. Kula loves food. Even though she looks after Allie, she will try to steal from Allie if there's anything Kula really wants. Kula is often the most vocal of our troop, and she will grumble and hoot when she knows that she's about to receive food. These vocalizations are happy or excited food noises. Kula just turned 26 years old on February 21st. Adult female gorillas often weigh about half what a silverback does. Kula is our largest female, and she weighs about 192 pounds, which is less than half of JoJo's weight. Kula's name is derived from a mysterious ape, the Kamba, or the Kamba. There's not been proof of this West Central Africa chimpanzee-gorilla hybrid, but stories about it have been told back into the mid-19th century. Kula is what the vocalization supposedly sounds like, and Kamba is a word that means to speak in the language of the indigenous people. I was going to talk about Kamba, but she may have gone down.
Yes.
Oh, this is Kamba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, she kind of disappeared for a second there.
So Kamba is our second dominant female and Kula's first daughter. She's 16 and a half years old, and although she has an athletic build, she tends to be quieter and sits back to observe what's going on and around in the troop. It's been interesting over the last few years to see how Kamba's personality has changed from juvenile to pregnant adult to mom. Early in her life, Kamba wasn't a great eater and was more submissive. Having a baby caused her dominance rank to go up. Now, although she's really excited about food, she tends to back down from Kula so they don't compete too much. Overall, the adults are not very playful, but sometimes the juveniles like to try to get them to join in. The kids are easily identifiable since they're so little and varied in size. They play wrestle and chase each other every day. Nora is our oldest juvenile, currently trying to get all of the Cheerios.
Oh, Cheerios.
She's 7 years and 4 months old. She's Kula's second daughter. She's independent from Kula now and goes between spending her time resting like a real grown-up to playing with the other kids. She's kind of like a teenager with attitude. She knows what she wants, but she's still a little bit in between life stages. Nora can be rambunctious and loud, or sweet and quiet, depending on her mood. She weighs almost 120 pounds and is still growing. Nora is probably the most outgoing and brave, but her little sister Allie also holds her own. No one knows if Nora learned how to tongue waggle from Grandma Binti, but she does this fun behavior too. Zachary is below Nora, also trying to get some Cheerios, and he's Kamba's only offspring and Binti's only great-grandkid. He's almost 5.5 years old. Remembering that JoJo weighs about 400 pounds, Zachary is just over 90, so he still has a lot of growing to do. He's been a more restrained juvenile than Nora and often ran to Kamba for reassurance. Although he still sleeps and rests with mom, he's much more confident, independent, and outgoing than he used to be. Much of this may correlate with when he was recently weaned from Kamba. His boldness is now apparent as he willingly competes with even the adults for food. He used to be a very picky eater, just like a lot of kids can be, but now he eats everything. He still has his preferences though. He always wants blueberries over apples. He howls with excitement over coconuts and will smash them to get the goodies inside, just like the adults do. Zachary's coat is thinner and lighter colored than the other two juveniles, and he's losing his baby teeth right now, so he currently has a tooth gap. Aww. Last but not least is our littlest and possibly cutest gorilla, Allie. Kula's third and youngest daughter will be 3 years old on June 1st. As with all baby gorillas, she grows slowly. She still nurses from Kula, but she has a great appetite and loves everything that the gorillas get to eat. She's been steadily gaining weight, and she now weighs over 40 pounds. She has always been better than Nora was at preventing Kula from stealing her food, so she usually gets just what the zoo nutritionist wants her to. Just like the other gorillas and zoo animals, Allie has a specially thought-out diet courtesy of the Brookfield Zoo's nutrition department, which is in charge of making regular diet adjustments as needed. This is to promote growth in young animals like Allie, support a mother's lactation, or just maintain healthy and ideal weights. Allie is also a very confident young gorilla, but she can sometimes be intimidated by Zachary. He sometimes plays too rough and tries to take her food. Like the other kids, Allie runs and jumps around boldly while playing. She is one of the most likely to beat her chest. While youngsters are learning how to be adult gorillas, they mock display during playtime. Her chest beats don't yet mean that she is displaying, but they would as an adult. Allie seems to borrow some traits from both her parents, sometimes walking on her tiptoes like JoJo, or vocalizing and competing excitedly for food like Kula. Allie's food vocalizations sound like cute little pig grunts.
All right, we have some questions.
Okay.
Do gorillas mate with only one other gorilla for life?
They do not. Groups of gorillas generally consist of one silverback and several females. The only other males in the group would be the silverback's offspring if he has sons. Generally, like Zachary is a good example, he's a boy, and he's still welcome in this group because he's JoJo's son. At some point, he will try to challenge JoJo, and they will have to be separated. And so in the wild, what happens is male gorillas will leave their family units and go off and form bachelor groups until they can find a family group of their own.
How many gorillas are typically in a bachelor group?
It really varies. In professionally managed settings, it's generally 3 to 4, just because of space constraints.
How many offspring do they have at one time?
Generally, gorillas are just like people and have one, but they are capable of having twins. Triplets would be extremely rare.
And how long do they nurse?
Gorillas nurse for a very long time. So nursing is a gorilla's primary source of nutrients for about 2 years. And then the youngsters will start to eat solid foods more regularly, and that becomes a big part of their diet. But gorillas will continue to nurse for comfort for up to about 5 or 6 years, as long as mom doesn't have a new baby. As soon as a new baby comes along, the old baby is weaned.
So how many generations do we have here at Brookfield Zoo?
So we have Binti is our oldest female, her daughter Kula, her daughter Kamba, and her son Zachary. So we have 4 generations if you go along that family line.
Why does it look like JoJo shaved his back?
That is a typical coloration for male silverback gorillas. It's that very defining feature where their haunches are that gray color. And this is just the way that JoJo looks. There actually is a lot of hair on his back.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. I always like asking that one. Do the kids play together?
The kids love to play together, and it's really interesting to watch their social dynamics. Allie generally won't play, she won't join in the play if Zachary and Nora are doing big kid play, because they play really rough. They know that they're bigger and stronger and they can get away with more, and Allie knows that she should steer clear of that. But if she wants to initiate play, she will go up to either Zachary or Nora individually, and then they play at her appropriate age level. So it's still wrestling, but it's more baby wrestles.
So what's going on with these Cheerios falling out of the ceiling?
So we have an enrichment device that's installed in the ceiling of Tropic World, and we keep it full of cereal. So we rotate through Cheerios and Rice Krispies, not treats. There's no marshmallows. And so right now I have a remote and I'm able to trigger that on cue. It also goes off routinely on its own throughout the day. So we have it set at a random setting right now. So during the hours that we are here with the gorillas and they are out here on this habitat, that will just trigger itself sometimes and they get a little bit of goodies. And it is factored into their diet. It's part of their enrichment amount of food that they get every day.
At what age would Zachary potentially start challenging JoJo?
It really varies, and it's very dependent on the existing silverback and the youngster. Zachary is a very mild-mannered male gorilla, so I personally think that he will take a little bit longer to challenge JoJo. In a zoo, we have a little bit of control over who goes where and when. So we do work with the species survival program, and we are kind of guided by them, and they tell us where animals are best suited for breeding needs and housing needs. And so probably like 10 is when we might start to see Zachary act up a little bit more and really challenging JoJo. But again, JoJo is 400 pounds, Zachary is 90, so Zachary is nowhere near trying to challenge Joe for real right now. It's just not a fair fight.
Aw, who's being adorable?
So that's Nora's tongue waggle that we're not exactly sure if she learned it from Binti, but Binti's the only other group member that does it. So she probably did.
What types of food do they eat and drink?
So they drink mostly water. We do offer them some Kool-Aid from time to time, sugar-free Kool-Aid. And it's just kind of one of their enrichment items that's a fun extra treat for them. In terms of food, they mostly eat leafy greens. That's the bulk of their diet. But they also get a variety of fruits and veggies.
Oh, there's some of that play behavior.
Some of that play. So that's baby gorilla play. So that's about as gentle as Nora ever gets, and Allie can take it. She's a tough girl. Yeah, so mostly leafy greens, fruits and veggies. They do get a lot of enrichment items, just things to kind of spice up their day that we are able to hide or offer in novel ways, just to kind of keep things interesting for them. And so we offer a lot of dried fruit, so like raisins, craisins, that sort of thing, seeds, and cereal.
Okay. We got a lot going on right now. We got
Lots of play
Allie
going on.
making a nest over there. We've got Nora playing over here.
So Allie is doing a really nice demonstration. This is kind of what baby gorillas do. They pretend to be grown-up gorillas. And gorillas do build a nest every single night. And so we just provide the bedding and they do what they want to do. So this is Allie making her own cute little Allie-sized nest, just for practice.
So where do the gorillas go when they're not out here for the public to see?
So they spend their evenings in a different area that's directly below this habitat. So there are 3 doors leading down into that lower area. And in that space, the animal care specialists are able to get closer to the gorillas. So that's generally where we do training. If anybody is on medications, that's where we can medicate them. And we can get a better, closer look at them down in that area. So if anybody has a wound or if Zachary is starting to lose a tooth, we can kind of keep a better, closer eye on everybody down there. So they do sleep down there and then they spend their days out here.
About how much water do they drink every day?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You should give them like little water bottles.
We have, they will take drinks out of the river. When the waterfall's going, they get the water out of there sometimes. But we also have automatic, we call them Lixits, kind of like what you'd give any, like, I don't know, it's just like a water source that's built into the habitat. And so they can just go and get however much water they want, whenever they want, and they always have access to that.
What types of training do you do with the gorillas?
We do primarily body present behaviors. So I can ask for a hand, I can ask the animals to turn around so that I can see their back, and that kind of allows us to keep a closer eye on, just generally on them. And it's kind of them participating in their own welfare, which is really cool. We also do shifting. We just always assume that they're going to want to come out here, but that is a big deal to get them to shift as a unit. And then what I think is the coolest thing that we do is we will do injection training. And currently, all of our adult females are partially injection trained, but it's a behavior that everybody is working on. And the reason we like to do that is because the vet staff have found that if animal care specialists are able to give injections when needed, we can actually use less medication. It also allows us to give things like vaccines without having to totally sedate an animal, which is always ideal.
Gorillas are pretty similar to humans in a lot of ways. Do they get vaccines that we would get?
They do. They get most of the typical vaccines that young children do.
Okay. Let's see, what else? Just scrolling through the comments here. Do Kula and Kamba still have like a mother-child relationship even though they're adults? Do they know that they're mother and daughter?
They know that they are related, I believe. They can't tell me, but yeah, they don't act like a mother-child per se, but they do have a very special relationship within the group. Gorillas fight. It's just kind of part of life. It's not often, it's not terrible. It's just kind of how they communicate with each other if there's frustration in the group. And generally, Kula and Kamba back each other up first. They're the first two that say, okay, this fight's over, we need to stop. And as soon as they come together, everything usually starts to calm down. So yeah, they do kind of have a special bond.
Oh, now we see some more nest building.
Yeah, so this is Zachary practicing his nest building.
Do they eat any meat, or are they strictly herbivores?
Yeah, they're strictly herbivores. No meat for these guys. They don't even do bugs.
I don't do bugs either. Is JoJo the biggest gorilla since he's the silverback?
He is. He's more than twice as big as our next biggest, who is Kula. And that's really common for gorillas. They are sexually dimorphic, which means that the male silverbacks are always going to be about twice as big as even your biggest full-grown females.
We talked about how the males, when they get to a certain age, will leave the troop and go form a bachelor group. Do the females typically stay in the same group their whole lives? Do they ever go off?
They also go off. So they
Okay.
might stay in a troop longer because they're not asserting themselves for dominance. And it's always beneficial for a female gorilla to stay in her family group long enough to get some baby experience. So whether it's her mom or one of the other adult females, it's always really great if an adolescent female can see mothering behavior, because that'll help her when she goes off and has her own babies. So the females do tend to stay in their own family groups a little bit longer, but ultimately they usually do go off and find a different group to be a part of.
Someone just asked what that loud bang just was.
Oh, I think somebody just climbed up the vine and it hit a rock. It's not uncommon to hear loud bangs out here, though. These guys are kind of noisy.
Yeah, I know the babies often like kind of smack the trees and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
That's
smack
pretty
things.
funny.
If they get, sometimes we'll give them ice treats, which are basically like big gorilla-sized popsicles, and they try to smash those on things, so that's really loud. They'll chest beat. They are pretty vocal. They get excited when they know they're going to get food.
Why does JoJo always hang out at the bottom?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's just his preferred space. Binti also tends to not hang out on the mountain tons. She actually likes the trees a lot, but if she's not up in a tree, she generally also goes further down. And I think it's just preference. Each of them have a space that they really like to be. So like right now, Kamba is in that hammock in the middle here. We most often see Nora in there, and it's just kind of like Nora's hammock. Everybody has access to it, but it's her favorite spot to be. You can see why, it looks comfy. So they just kind of all have their own spaces. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you guys learned a little bit something new about our gorilla troop, and we hope to see you back soon.